No more government buyouts of properties damaged in extreme weather events. That's the recommendation from a panel of experts advising the Crown on how to adapt to climate change. Matt Winneray is chair of the Independent Reference Group on Climate Adaptation and is with us now. Hey, Matt.
Morning, Ron.
Good to see you. So at the moment, what happens? Like there's a flood, my house gets demoed, it's KO'd, it's red stickered. What happens?
So at the moment, there's no formal policy about how this works. And what has happened is it's been done on an ad hoc basis post events. And what we saw post the North Island weather events of 2023 and Cyclone Gabrielle is where a house, where it's considered unreasonable risk to life, that's when that triggered the buyout. But it's not all events, right? So you see smaller things like Port Waikato or Blue Cliffs or Selwyn Huts where you see some coastal erosion and those properties fall into the sea and they're not subject to those same type of buyout offers. So there's ad hoc policy in relation to large events and no particular certainty for anyone involved around how that will operate.
And you're making a recommendation that, and with a lead-in period, but that there be no compensation, basically, no help, no buyout.
We're making a recommendation that the government's responsibility to alleviate hardship is separated from the value of the property. But most importantly, firstly, we're making a recommendation that everybody have clear and consistent information relating to the hazards, the physical impacts of climate change in relation to their property, flooding, coastal erosion, inundation, that type of thing, and the risks, which is the likelihood of that event happening. And so with that information that everybody can have, and we can update that through time, and we know that these risks are increasing, and we know that the physical impacts are increasing, people can make decisions in relation to those. And what we are proposing is that over a transition period of about 20 years, you get to a point where the government is no longer automatically the de facto insurer in relation to one of these events, and decisions and the market reacts and adapts to the risk related to these climate change events.
So in other words, property values that fall through the floor?
Well, not necessarily, because it's not all properties that are affected by climate change.
No, but the ones that are, right?
So some that are affected. Yeah. So what we're saying is, if we as a country want to make the government the de facto insurer, have a formal policy for that and figure out how you're going to pay for it. What we've got at the moment is an unsustainable de facto approach, and that has risks of real unfairness. So at some point, when that gets recognised to be unsustainable, and it stops, and you're the one at the event afterwards, then you've got a genuine concern about the unfairness of that policy. What we're saying is create some certainty around it, transition to a position where people have fair warning. So if after 20 years you've had the information, you've chosen to continue to live in the place, and people have different views about risks, right? So some people view the risk as lower, some people view the risk as higher, but incorporate that view in the decision to own or remain or tenant a property, and have that view reflected for the owners of that property.
Yeah, Matt, I get what you're saying. I think if you are in a property right now, let's say you they accept your advice, they introduce this policy, and in 20 years the rules change and it's concrete and the government's not there to buy out. If you're living in a house that's close to the beach right now, or perhaps close to a flooding zone or whatever, the value of that property drops immediately, doesn't it? Because whoever's going to come in and buy it knows that after 20 years the government won't step in, so you are less covered.
Yeah, so the point of the work, Belinda Story, who's one of the members of the group, has done quite a bit of work on how markets react to climate change risk. And so the point of that transition period is to avoid a sharp change. But you have to do that over a period of time in order to make that work. If that change was next year, there would be a separation of response from the government from the property values, then yes, you'd see a sharp change. But if you create that over a longer period of time, then you can see a smoothing of that impact.
Hey Matt, nice to have you on the program explaining that to us, mate. Really appreciate it. It looks like you're living in an apartment which is up nice and high.
No, I'm living in Point Chev, but I'm still reasonably high.
Hey, nice to have you on the show. Matt Winneray, Chair of Independent Reference Group on Climate Adaptation. It is 29 minutes.